All right, mic on. It's awesome to follow Vab. I worked with Vab at Dell, and I remember running tests on that continue shopping link, and I remember the politics too, so don't miss those. I now work at Dun & Bradstreet. We are, let's see, so Matt today was talking about age being a big problem. That resonated deeply. We are a 175-year-old company. Abraham Lincoln used to collect data for us. So, yeah, age can be a problem. We are trying to modernize. All right. We have a problem. We are all sick. We're ill, right? There's an illness that has impacted us since our early childhood and lasts throughout our lives. It's a chronic condition and will never be cured. You see, we produce a nearly endless stream of bad ideas. And I think it's about time we legitimize this illness by giving it a name, and I have a couple of suggestions for you. So how about intelligentsia absentia? Sounds official, right? Or if you prefer, cerebellum densa. Who's taken the challenge? No, I'm glad to see that. Some people are better at bad ideas than others. Hey, if you're not into the esoteric Latin names, I mean something a little more catchy, a street name. The good news, right? The good news is that because of people making bad decisions, we all have really good job security, right? If there weren't people making bad decisions, there'd be no reason to hire highly trained people to reduce the risk of those decisions. But the bad news, like I said, is that none of us are immune. In fact, the brightest and most talented, right, the most genius among us, if we followed their advice alone, as Warren Buffett would tell you, when he doesn't consult with his partner, Charles Munger, he makes some really bad decisions. Now, most of our decisions are not costing us billions of dollars, but that's no excuse. We have ample evidence of this in our world. Now, whether you're at Dell making 50-50 your win rate for testing, or like Chad mentioned today, 10% win rate, right? We know that a lot of the ideas, in fact, I would say maybe maximum 30% win rate. If you think about that, 70% of the ideas that we commit resources to are not good ideas. Now that's humbling, and we've all had the experience of an idea that we just knew was going to win fall flat on its nose, but I think it's also terrifying. I don't know how things work at your organization, but at our organization, a lot of decisions are made without testing, without any thought to mitigating the risk of a bad decision. Now, I think that's got to change. We have to have better ideas. We have to win. It's our imperative to find ideas that work. Now, I know somebody is squirming in their seat right now because they've heard a couple times today even that there's no such thing as a losing test, right? You learn from every test. That's great. Granted, you learn from every test. There's value of those learnings. I just want to know, how big was your bonus based on your learnings? I mean, unless you're maybe working for Project Moonshot, right, where failing is celebrated, I don't think anyone is making a career on learnings alone. We have to win with a capital W. And so this today is about better tools. I want to change your behavior permanently. I want to give you a better process that you can use to win more. I think to do that, we have to look at where our ideas come from. Now, this is our optimization process, and it probably looks a lot like many of your optimization processes. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that nobody, right, nobody has done this. Nobody has sat in a room and speculated about what the customer is struggling with. That does not happen in CRO circles. We start with insights. We start with research, right? Someone takes the time to run usability tests. Someone takes the time to run surveys to discover the customer's frustrations. Someone's watching session replays or analyzing click behavior. Right? But simply identifying a problem does not identify the right solution to that problem. But this moment, right, this moment where we discover a problem, that's oftentimes the moment of conception for a lot of ideas. So when we ran usability testing on our mobile site, it became abundantly clear that the hamburger icon was not intuitive for many of our users. So Vab, I'd be interested to know if you guys will test that and find something else. But here's the deal. The right answer wasn't immediately obvious. When we ran surveys on our site, it became abundantly clear that the frequency of pop-ups inviting users to chat on our site were a point of frustration for many users. But the right answer was not simply to reduce the number of pop-ups. In fact, we tried that, and it was disastrous. Now, if you want to know the right answers, you'll have to go to our websites. This isn't about that. This is about the process you take to get to the right answers. You see, what we do is we reach up into our heads, up onto the shelf marked Solutions for Problem X, and we pull down the one with the prettiest packaging. And then we slap an execution plan together, ship it off, and we call it good. Now, I know that's simplistic thinking, right? But the fact is that ideas that are most easily accessed by memory tend to dominate our thinking. Now, that sounds like a heuristic. That sounds like a bias. Indeed, it is. This is availability bias. Out of a universe of possible solutions, we consider a tiny subset, and we think we're making a good decision. Now, this results in a lot of suboptimal decision-making, right? We stop looking for solutions after the first promising one presents itself. I don't think this is just laziness. I think there are a lot of people in this room that are putting forth tremendous effort to work with others to get the best ideas out of everyone's brains. But there are some good reasons some of us aren't. If this is brainstorming, I don't want a piece of it. I don't think innovation is coming out of this room, right? You can just imagine the discussions that are happening here, right? No one is getting to consensus on things. No one agrees with each other. This is dull. This is painful. This could fail to influence outcomes. Ideas, projects will die in a room like this. There's a better way. It doesn't have to be painful. I think it can be easy. I think it can be fun, but it may not be intuitive. I will say that we have not always done a great job at this. There was a time a while back when, at our very best, right, we'd get people together to produce ideas. And I scheduled an hour and a half with about a dozen people, the smartest people in our organization. And I said, all right, guys, give me your optimization ideas. And I was ready with my marker. I was going to whiteboard everything out. And someone would throw out an idea. Some heads would nod, yeah. And then someone else would say, yeah, that's pretty good, but I kind of think we should do it this way. And the first person's thinking, no, that wasn't what I was thinking. Right? And you have this tension in the room, right? And there's discord. I mean, here's the deal. Some people never even spoke during this ideation session. Some people never contributed a single idea. It was a waste of time for them. We came out of this, we had about 30 ideas, and they were across the board, wide spectrum of ideas. The problem was none of them were that good. We tested a bunch of them, and we got some wins out of those tests, but not a single one of those winners could be implemented. They were not thought out deeply enough. So I personally have read far too many Harvard Business Review articles to believe anything other than that a group of brains, when harnessed correctly, can always produce better ideas than a single brain alone. And so, recognizing that we had a deficiency in our system, I went back to school. Not literally. I bought some books. I looked at the people who were doing ideation really well, right? I read articles, I watched videos, I reached out to people in my network who I thought were really, really good at harnessing the collective creativity of a group. I can tell you that today, ideation is a normal part of our process, and we've gotten a lot better at it. Whereas before, we spent an hour and a half with a dozen people, we came out with 30 ideas. Recently, I got a couple people together, we spent 25 minutes, and we came out with over 50 ideas, some of them very good ones that are being tested currently. So the rest of the time, I'm going to talk about our process. And if you want a money shot, this is it. Go ahead. That's all right. We're going to go through these one by one, and at the end, I will provide a link to our template that you're welcome to use and customize to your heart's content. It starts with mindset. So you have to believe that the best idea is not the first promising one that comes across your consciousness. You have to believe that the best ideas come from collective group work, and that it comes forth as a result of a creative process. Now, this isn't always easy, right? Some of us are jaded. Some of us hate group work. We don't like trying to make a decision together. I can promise you that is not the plug. That's not what we're doing here. This isn't about making decisions. This is about coming up with ideas. You also have to get it through your head that with regard to ideation, it's about quantity and not necessarily quality. Now, of course, we want good ideas, but we're not always so great at determining what those good ideas are when they're in our heads. We need people to get the ideas out. We need the more, the better here. Now, you want every person involved in your ideation to be working hard on this problem. You want them spitting everything out. And to do that, you really have to set some ground rules in place early on. First and foremost among those, no critiquing. Right? No evaluation of any kind. You don't want people spending time promoting their ideas or defending them or rationalizing them. Right? Remember our ideation session where people were arguing about it? How do you think that person who pitched the first idea felt when another person came in and trounced on their idea? Think inspired creativity? Now, I don't know where you come down on split brain theory, but brighter minds than mine have posited that there are separate areas of the brain in charge of evaluating ideas and generating ideas. And we're not good at doing both at the same time. So don't try. At a psychosocial level, right, we want to create a safe space. We want to create a space where people feel comfortable coming up and sharing idealistic ideas, outlandish ideas, things that sound dumb. We want them to feel comfortable sharing that. And there are not a lot of areas in the business world where we're comfortable doing that. I mean, think about it. We're constantly being judged by our ideas, by what we say, by the punctuation in our freaking email. Right? Exclamation points, Pep? Are they okay? Not okay. You have to be serious about shutting this down, right? Critique is the number one reason for ideation failure. You have to be willing to call someone out on it. You've got to make it clear from the start. I've had to do it. You have to say, look, we're veering off course. This is not about discussion. Shut it down. Be the bad guy. It'll pay off. Let's talk about your group. Small group, 3 to 5 people. Remember the big group, 12 people I got in a room? How some people never spoke? I mean, the fact is there's just so much airspace, right? And you get a lot of people in the room, and some people are not going to have the privilege of speaking. They're going to get drowned out by more assertive, outspoken people. Now, who are these people? Of course, you want your subject matter experts. You want your designers. You want your developers. You want your digital marketers. You want your UX pros. You want your CRO people. But you also want a breadth of perspective, right? You want people with very different backgrounds. You want a spark. So invite someone in who doesn't know anything about CRO. Invite someone in who doesn't really know why they're there. You never know what kind of creative ideas that they're going to spark within the rest of the group. Now, you need to remove distraction. The science is clear here. Human beings suck at multitasking. Somebody in here, somebody thinks they are a good multitasker. It's not true. You can't beat science. When we try to do many things at the same time, we just do them all worse. So do whatever you can to remove the distractions, get people thinking hard about your problem. If you have to, get them out of their business work environment. Go to a hotel conference room, go to a cafe, go to someone's house, ask them to shut down the email, put down their phones. You need them working on your problem. Now, if you are a global business like we are, you may end up having to work with people over the phone. Face-to-face communication is ideal, right? There's a lot of nonverbal communication that takes place. It facilitates the conversation. But here's the deal. The people on the phone, they become second-rate citizens to people in the room. It takes a really assertive and a really outspoken person to overcome that disadvantage. So my recommendation is don't create the disadvantage in the first place. If you have someone joining over the phone, put everyone on the phone. Now you may think, yeah, but I'm going to lose out on my collaborative ability, right? You're in the room, you're whiteboarding, you've got pen and paper, you're doing Post-it notes. We found that you don't lose out on your collaborative ability by going online. Google slide presentation, right? You can simultaneously edit a document at the same time. It's easy. You can draw on it. You can do it works just as well. Now you have to narrow your focus, right? This landscape is too wide to see any portion of it in any amount of detail. Remember, back to that ideation session, that was a complete failure. I said bring all your optimization ideas, and we covered a wide expanse, right? And how great were those ideas? They were not. Now you may think, well, if I go too narrow, we're not going to come up with enough ideas. You're wrong. We ran out of time after an hour talking about a single navigation label, one word. We spent an hour on it. We'll illustrate this. Imagine I were to ask you to list 10 items in your refrigerator right now. You don't have to do it. I considered doing that. It didn't work out so well in practice runs. How likely would you be to list off milk? Now, I know Renee's answer, hard no. But if you're not opposed to dairy for some reason or another, you'd be pretty likely, right? It's a common item, it's a large item, it's purchased frequently. These are the ideas presented by availability bias. Now, how likely would you have been to name something like cottage cheese? Not as likely. But how about if I were to ask you, list 10 white items in your refrigerator? Chances are you would not struggle with that, and you'd be much more likely to come up with this answer. Now, what if this were the right answer for your users? What if this were the winning idea? You need to go narrow, you need to zoom in, you need to go deep. You cast a wide net, it just goes shallow. Okay, so you've got your group together, right? You've got the rules laid down, you've got the right mindset, you know what you're going after, you've got guardrails set up around your ideation. Where do you start? We kick it all off with a brain dump. So you just get all the ideas out, right? Just get it all out. Skim the surface, get everything right below it. Seriously, though, you're going to have to set the example here. My advice is kick it off with a couple of really dumb-sounding ideas. Something crazy. Someone's going to laugh, someone's going to snicker, but hey, speak up. That's when you say, you know what? That's fair game. We're not evaluating these ideas. I don't want you filtering the information out. I want you getting everything out in front of the open. You never know what idea is going to spark some creativity in someone else. Don't spend a lot of time on each idea. Less than 60 seconds, you want to be popping these out really, really quick. Now, if you are a more artistic type and you want to be drawing all the ideas, that's fine. We typically just list them. We'll get to drawing later. It's important. And just keep at this until the pace slows down. Right? You can rev on this for a while. Next comes my favorite stage. This is where we challenge the group to build on somebody else's idea. Right? You take the creative output of one brain and you add to it the creative output of another brain, and you get something new that would not have existed without that collaboration. Right? This is where magic happens. A lot of the best ideas come out of this phase. As with the brain dump, you just keep going on this until things slow down. It's like popcorn, right? When there's a good distance between pops, you know you're done. Now at this point, you may be 10 minutes in, you may be 40 minutes in. I mean, with regard to duration, you can go 5 minutes, you can go an hour, you can go several days. It depends on the project and the scope. I find that for the average optimization project, an hour is a good amount of time to get through a couple exercises and to come out with a really good list of ideas. But from here on out, you may be thinking, gosh, you're probably tapped out here. I promise you you're wrong. But your job here now is to inspire the creativity in the group, to get them thinking in different ways. There's a lot of different methods you can use to do that. Google is your friend here. I'm going to show you a couple of ideas that work well for us. First, challenge the group to come up with ideas for a specific use case and persona. Now, as has been mentioned several times today, what is implicit in creating a great customer experience is empathy. And we know we're not so great at that. Right? We have all sorts of biases. We have the curse of knowledge. We have expertise bias. We know our sites and our products inside and out, and we cannot fathom how the novice does not understand. We just can't see through their eyes. Right? So having a persona, having a face, understanding, and just looking at someone else's perspective and their background and their problems, right? Their demographics, their habits, it helps us think about things in a different way. And I don't even think these have to be really high-tech. I mean, they should be for certain marketing exercises. For ideation, I don't know that they necessarily have to be. The purpose here is just to get you thinking differently. The good news is you may have some of these lying around, and you can always reuse them. We also like to ask people to generate ideas that do something specific, something functional. I'm not just talking about anything here. Rely on the optimization methods that have been tried and tested. I mean, spend an hour on Pep's blog, and you're going to come up with a lot of stuff there. Use something like Chris Goward's lift model, right? There's like 6 action items that you can do there that influence optimization. So there's a lot of things you can do, right? You're talking about strengthening your value proposition, about removing distraction, about adding urgency, about providing social proof, about creating trust, about evoking emotion of some sort, creating a luxury experience, simplifying. Don't try to bite off everything at once. Pick a few things, maybe a few related items, challenge the group to work on these, and then move on. Now, if you have not taken a visual approach, it's time to do so. Prototyping is really important. And I'm not talking high-fidelity mock-ups. I'm talking about quick and dirty. You got to remember Parkinson's law, right? A task will expand to fill whatever space is allotted to it. So you want to get through these really fast. Now, something happens. You think your idea is complete. There it is, written out on the page. Why am I going to have to draw this? But you're wrong. The creative process continues as you are sketching your idea out. And some ideas you may find that you want to iterate on them immediately. Right? This could extend quite a while. Now, just because you're in a virtual environment doesn't mean you skip out on this process. Right? In this day and age, everyone's got a cell phone. Draw it, take a picture of it, email it to yourself, save it on the computer, upload it to document. It takes less than a minute. So what's next? Is it decision time? Remember, this isn't about making decisions. Now, someone is going to have to make decisions, right? But take care of that later. Take care of that with the people who actually need to be involved in the decision making. If you try to do it with a large group, it's going to take a long, long time, and it's going to be painful and arduous. Now, this allows you to do a lot of things, right? One, you disentangle yourself from that painful part of the process. But two, it allows you to engage a broader audience, right? Invite the executive to your ideation session. Invite that person. We all know there's a person in our organization who's bullheaded, who's really aggressive, who tears down everyone else's ideas, and their idea always seems to make it to the top of the list. If you're that person, you're welcome. You can come. You know why? Because you don't get to make a decision. You don't get to critique. You don't get to evaluate. This is just about getting your ideas out. Well, sometimes those people are brilliant, right? They have great insights. That said, we do want to get an idea for which way the wind is blowing, right? We want some feedback. To that end, we give people a couple votes. We give them some yes votes. We give them some maybe votes. The maybe votes are ideas that are good, show promise, but maybe need to be developed out a little more. Right? You want to get a sense, you want to ultimately pursue the ideas that get buzz. Now, you may be wondering at the end of this, did I do it right? It may feel a little awkward at first, right? That time when you had to tell the person to stop talking because they couldn't help but comment on somebody else's idea, that may not feel very natural. The group may not catch on to immediately. Keep at it. Practice it. Make the process your own. Now, I'd like to say that you will immediately witness a huge increase in your win rate. I think that's going to be hard to measure, right? There's no random sample of tests with sound ideation tactics and tests without them. But I will say, ask yourself, did this change my mind? Was my best idea coming out of this better than my best idea going into it? I have never run a session where it did not change my mind. Now, as with anything, when you do it well, other great things can happen too. It has a bit of a snowball effect. One of the things that I have marveled at is almost every time we do this, someone approaches me afterward and says, hey, thank you so much. That was really fun. I enjoyed it. I'd love to do this again. I don't get comments like that after many of my meetings. And maybe that's because most of my meetings suck. But I think there's something here, right? I think this satisfies a craving that we have. We want to feel creative. We want to work well with others, right? We want to have our ideas listened to in that non-threatening, non-intimidating environment. And I think this satisfies that need for people. And they enjoy it and they will thank you for it. You're also going to feel like a bit of a Jedi. I mean, what you've done is you've invited people into a room. You said, give me all the powers of your brain, and you haven't promised anything to them. You've said, great, okay, I'll think about it. Maybe you'll see this in a test, maybe you won't. This is also a great way to evangelize your program, right? You present yourself as a subject matter expert. People can come to you. They know that you know how to get the best ideas out of a group. Now, this is a skill that's applicable in almost every area of business. It's valuable to organizations. You're also going to be a little bit less of a jerk. right? That lone wolf on his high mountain dictating to the world what the optimization roadmap is going to look like, that idea is gone. It's dead, or it should be. Now, I'm convinced that doing ideation this way can have a profound impact on the way you approach your work, on the way you make decisions, on the way you feel about working with others, and on your entire organization. I'm convinced that leveraging the power of perspective and depth of creativity that exists within a group, that everyone does better, that the better ideas will win. So good luck beating your own bad ideas. I know you have a lot of them. Here's a link to our template. And the fewer questions you ask, the quicker we get to leave. I'm just saying. That's it. Thanks.